Killian Winslow sat in the dimly lit living room of his Boston mansion, the oppressive silence around him broken only by the soft ticking of the antique grandfather clock in the corner. Shadows danced along the elegant walls, cast by the flickering glow of the fireplace. He clutched a photograph of his late wife, Caroline, tracing her gentle smile with his thumb. It had been exactly 3 weeks since the tragic plane crash that had stolen her away, leaving him shattered and completely alone with their newborn daughter, Madeline. Killian was a man accustomed to control and order, a millionaire who'd built his fortune with unwavering focus and relentless determination. But now, for the first time, he felt utterly powerless. The sound of Madeline's weak cry from the nursery jolted him from his painful reverie. The doctors had warned him repeatedly that Madeline's refusal to accept formula could have devastating consequences. His daughter was slipping away from him, and no specialist seemed capable of reversing her decline. Just as despair began to tighten its grip around him, a gentle knock at the front door drew him reluctantly to his feet. He opened the heavy oak door to find his oldest friend, Dr. Elias Caldwell, standing on the doorstep. Elias stepped inside, removing his coat as he met Killian's gaze solemnly. "Any improvement?" Elias asked quietly, already knowing the answer. Killian shook his head, his voice strained. "None. She barely feeds now. She's fading, Elias, and no one can help her." Elias hesitated for a moment, seeming to wrestle with something important. Finally, he spoke with cautious hope in his voice. "I might know someone who can help. A young woman named Elodie Harlow. She recently lost her own child immediately after giving birth, the very day Caroline passed." Killian's brows drew together sharply, his expression filled with doubt and pain. "You expect me to ask a grieving mother to nurse my daughter? That's cruel, Elias. How could you even suggest such a thing?" Elias took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "It is precisely because of her loss that she might understand what's at stake. Elodie has an extraordinary capacity for compassion, and your daughter needs someone desperately. Without human milk, Madeline's survival odds drop dramatically. I wouldn't suggest this unless I truly believed she might agree." Killian turned away, running a weary hand through his dark hair, struggling with the morality of the situation. Yet deep down, desperation outweighed his reservations. Madeline was all he had left of Caroline, their final gift to each other. He couldn't bear to lose her as well. "Arrange a meeting," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. 2 days later, Killian waited anxiously in the sunlit conservatory of his mansion. Sunlight streamed through the glass roof, illuminating lush greenery and exotic flowers, yet he noticed none of it. His heart raced uncomfortably as Elias arrived, accompanied by a slender young woman whose delicate, sorrowful expression immediately captured Killian's attention. Elodie Harlow was strikingly beautiful in an understated way, her auburn hair cascading in gentle waves around her pale shoulders, her expressive hazel eyes carrying a depth of pain that mirrored his own. She paused hesitantly as their eyes met, seemingly gathering strength before stepping forward. "I appreciate you agreeing to meet with me, Miss Harlow," Killian began carefully, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness uncharacteristic for him. "Elodie, please," she corrected softly, her voice gentle yet steady. "Dr. Caldwell explained your situation. I'm so very sorry for your loss." "And I for yours," Killian replied, sincerity evident in his tone. "I can't begin to imagine how painful this request must be for you." Elodie took a shaky breath, her gaze drifting toward the large portrait of Caroline holding a newborn Madeline, prominently displayed on the wall behind Killian. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "It's incredibly difficult," she admitted honestly. "But Dr. Caldwell told me about your daughter. If there's even a chance I could save her, I want to try." Killian felt relief flood his chest, mixed with an overwhelming sense of gratitude and guilt. He nodded gently, words momentarily failing him. Then, clearing his throat, he said quietly, "Let me introduce you." He led Elodie upstairs to the softly illuminated nursery. The room was beautifully decorated in shades of pale lavender, but its elegant beauty paled beside the tiny, frail infant lying restlessly in her crib. Madeline stirred weakly, whimpering faintly. Elodie approached the crib cautiously, looking down at the child who had unknowingly linked their tragic paths. Her expression softened immediately, tenderness replacing the sorrow that had clouded her features. Carefully, Elodie reached out, gently stroking Madeline's delicate cheek with her finger. "She's beautiful," Elodie whispered, tears spilling softly down her cheeks. "She looks like her mother." Killian's throat tightened painfully as he watched Elodie connect so naturally with his daughter. He saw the courage it took her to be here, the strength required to offer comfort to a child who reminded her painfully of her own loss. It filled him with a profound respect he hadn't expected to feel. "Are you sure you're able to do this?" he asked softly, his voice thick with emotion. "I understand if it's too painful." Elodie lifted her gaze slowly to meet his, determination glinting clearly behind her tears. "This baby needs help, and I have something to give her. If I can't save my own child, maybe I can help save yours. Maybe that's why our lives crossed this way." Her words sent a rush of warmth through Killian, a fragile sense of hope rising from the depths of his grief. "Thank you, Elodie," he murmured sincerely. "You don't know what this means to me." She nodded softly, carefully lifting Madeline into her arms. Instinctively, the child nestled against her, calming almost instantly at her touch. For the first time since Caroline's death, Killian felt a flicker of genuine peace, a tentative belief that perhaps there was meaning and redemption hidden beneath the tragedies that had shattered both of their worlds. Standing silently, Killian watched as Elodie gently rocked Madeline, whispering softly to soothe the infant. He realized in that quiet, delicate moment that their lives were now irrevocably entwined, not merely by shared loss, but by the powerful bond of life and compassion they discovered together. Neither knew exactly what the future held, but both sensed this moment was the beginning of something far greater than either had imagined. It was a path they hadn't chosen, yet somehow, in the depths of their mutual grief, hope had found them both. In the weeks that followed Elodie's decision to help Madeline, a careful routine settled over the Winslow mansion, offering a fragile balance between pain and healing. Each morning, just as the sun cast its gentle golden glow over Boston, Elodie arrived quietly at the mansion. At first, her presence felt tentative and cautious, like a delicate thread stretched too tightly, always at risk of snapping. Yet slowly, day by day, she grew more comfortable in the vast house, her warmth filling the silence that had once haunted the stately halls. Killian watched her discreetly from a respectful distance, not wanting to intrude upon the fragile bond forming between Elodie and his daughter. But each day, he found himself increasingly captivated, not merely by her quiet beauty, but by the strength and compassion she carried within. She had lost so much, yet she still chose to give selflessly, pouring love into a child who was not her own. One morning, Killian found himself standing silently in the doorway of the nursery, observing Elodie gently rocking Madeline in her arms. The sunlight streamed softly through sheer curtains, illuminating her auburn hair in shades of burnished copper and gold. Her expression, serene yet tinged with quiet sorrow, stirred something deep within his heart. Feeling his gaze, Elodie glanced up suddenly, her cheeks coloring faintly when their eyes met. Killian cleared his throat awkwardly, stepping forward. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you," he said quietly, almost shyly. Elodie smiled gently, shaking her head. "It's okay. You aren't disturbing us at all." He moved closer, pausing beside her as he looked down at Madeline, who lay peacefully sleeping against Elodie's chest. "She's gaining weight," Killian remarked softly, gratitude thickening his voice. "The doctors say you're saving her life." Elodie's eyes grew soft and warm as she gazed tenderly at the baby. "I think she's helping me too," she confessed softly. "When I lost my daughter, I didn't believe I'd survive it. But being here with Madeline, it gives me purpose, helps ease the pain." Killian felt a sharp ache at her words, understanding profoundly what she meant. "I feel the same way." Losing Caroline nearly broke me, and sometimes it still threatens to overwhelm me completely. But seeing Madeline in your care, it's the only thing keeping me from completely falling apart." Their eyes met again, a powerful current passing between them, silent yet filled with mutual understanding. For the first time, Killian realized how deeply entwined their grief had become, creating a connection far deeper than simple gratitude or sympathy. "Tell me about Caroline," Elodie said softly, breaking the silence delicately. "What was she like?" Killian hesitated, taken off guard by the sudden request. But something in Elodie's gentle presence made him feel safe enough to speak honestly. "She was beautiful, inside and out. Intelligent, kind, strong. She always believed in me, even when I doubted myself. Caroline had this incredible laugh, bright, infectious. She would have been a wonderful mother. Losing her, it feels like losing half of myself." Elodie reached out gently, touching Killian's hand in quiet comfort. "I'm so sorry, Killian. I wish I had the right words to ease your pain." "You already have," he murmured sincerely, a faint, grateful smile briefly touching his lips. "By helping Madeline, by just being here, you've given me hope again. I don't think you realize just how much your presence means to us." Elodie's eyes glistened with unshed tears, deeply touched by his sincerity. She carefully shifted Madeline to her other arm before speaking again. "This might sound strange, but sometimes when I'm holding her, I feel as if my own daughter is close. It's comforting, but also painful. Does that make sense?" Killian nodded slowly, understanding perfectly. "More than you know. Every time I see you holding Madeline, a part of me feels Caroline nearby. It's bittersweet, but somehow it makes everything easier to bear." Their conversation was interrupted by the soft whimpering of Madeline, signaling that she was waking. Elodie quickly adjusted her position, gently soothing the baby with soft murmurs and tender touches. Watching the tenderness between them, Killian felt a deep warmth spread through his chest, a powerful emotion he hadn't expected to feel again so soon after losing Caroline. After a few moments, Elodie glanced up, a faint blush coloring her cheeks again. "You don't have to stay if you're busy," she said shyly, looking away briefly. Killian shook his head, his voice gentle but firm. "Right now, there's nowhere else I'd rather be." As days passed, their relationship quietly transformed. Killian began to eagerly anticipate Elodie's arrival, finding comfort in the rhythm she brought into their lives. He noticed small details about her, the gentle way she hummed softly to soothe Madeline, her habit of nervously tucking her hair behind her ear when deep in thought, the faint laugh lines appearing around her eyes whenever she smiled. One rainy afternoon, Elodie sat quietly beside the window, watching droplets streak down the glass. Killian entered softly, noticing her distant gaze and sensing something weighed heavily upon her. "What's troubling you?" he asked gently, sitting beside her. She sighed quietly, still gazing outside. "I worry that I'm growing too attached. One day Madeline won't need me anymore, and I'm afraid losing her might break me again." Killian felt his heart clench painfully, understanding exactly what she feared. He reached out impulsively, gently clasping her hand within his own. "Elodie, you will always have a place here, if you wish it. Madeline will always need your love, and truthfully, so will I." Her breath caught softly, surprise and vulnerability flickering through her gaze. Slowly, Elodie met his eyes, searching carefully before finally whispering, "Are you certain? I don't want you to confuse gratitude or loneliness for something deeper." Killian's eyes held hers steadily, sincerity filling every word. "I know the difference between gratitude and genuine connection. Yes, you've brought comfort, but it's far more than that. You've helped heal parts of me I thought permanently broken. I've grown deeply attached to you, not just to what you offer Madeline." Elodie exhaled softly, tears slipping gently down her cheeks as hope and fear warred within her heart. Carefully, she leaned closer, allowing Killian's arms to gently wrap around her, providing comfort and reassurance she desperately needed but hadn't dared to seek openly. They sat quietly, holding one another in the tranquil silence, two broken souls cautiously discovering healing within each other's embrace. Neither spoke for several minutes, allowing the moment's quiet intimacy to strengthen their newfound bond. Yet both silently understood that this gentle closeness marked a profound shift, a subtle acknowledgement that the careful distance they'd maintained was fading away, replaced by deeper emotions they couldn't easily ignore. And while the path ahead remained uncertain, for the first time since tragedy shattered their worlds, Juliet and Elodie allowed themselves a fragile yet powerful hope, that perhaps fate had guided them toward one another for reasons far beyond their understanding, and that together, they might finally begin to heal. Over the weeks that followed, the once fragile connection between Juliet and Elodie grew steadily stronger, nurtured by shared routines, quiet conversations, and an unspoken understanding born from their mutual grief. While both remained cautious about expressing their emotions openly, the bond between them deepened silently, becoming increasingly evident to those around them. Despite their growing closeness, Elodie still carried an emotional weight she often tried to hide. Late one evening, after putting Madeline to sleep, she wandered alone into the Winslow mansion's extensive gardens, the gentle rustle of autumn leaves providing a soothing soundtrack to her troubled thoughts. Lost in her contemplation, she hadn't heard Juliet quietly approaching behind her. "Elodie." Juliet's soft voice startled her, causing her to turn sharply, her eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, Juliet, you scared me," she admitted softly, placing a hand gently on her chest to calm her racing heartbeat. A faint smile played at the corners of his lips as he stepped closer, noticing the shadows beneath her eyes. "I didn't mean to," he apologized gently. "But you seemed upset today. I wanted to check on you." She sighed softly, lowering her gaze to the carefully tended rose bushes illuminated by soft garden lights. "I'm just tired, I suppose. It's been difficult, navigating these feelings lately. Sometimes it feels like my grief has faded, only to return suddenly, stronger than before." Juliet nodded slowly, his voice warm with empathy. "I understand. Grief comes in waves. Just when you think you're managing, it hits again. But you're not alone, Elodie. I feel it too." Their eyes met again, a powerful current passing between them. She felt herself drawn toward him, comforted by his presence. Gently, Juliet reached out, taking her hand and guiding her toward a secluded stone bench nestled beneath an ancient oak. They sat quietly, shoulder to shoulder, beneath the silvery moonlight filtering through rustling leaves. For several long moments, neither spoke, both lost in their own thoughts. Eventually, Juliet broke the silence gently. "You never told me much about your life before all this happened," he said softly. "About your dreams, your family. I'd like to know more, if you're comfortable." Elodie hesitated briefly, contemplating his request before finally speaking quietly. "I was born and raised right here in Boston, in a family that valued appearances above all else. When I got pregnant unexpectedly, without being married, my parents felt ashamed, embarrassed. They pushed me away, told me I'd ruined their reputation. The father of my child was even less supportive. He disappeared, leaving me entirely alone. Losing the baby felt like punishment for choices I'd made, even though rationally I know that's not true." Juliet squeezed her hand reassuringly, his expression filled with quiet anger on her behalf. "No one deserves such treatment, Elodie. Least of all you. You are one of the kindest, strongest people I've ever known." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, deeply touched by his sincerity. "Thank you," she whispered softly. "When I first agreed to help Madeline, I was afraid it might break me even more. But instead, it's begun to heal me. Meeting you, seeing your strength, it's given me hope that I might find happiness again." Juliet felt warmth spread through him at her honest confession. Without thinking, he reached out gently, cupping her cheek tenderly in his palm, prompting her to lift her gaze slowly toward his. Their eyes locked, the air between them thickening with unspoken emotions. Elodie, Killian murmured tenderly, his voice deep and sincere. I promised myself I'd never let anyone else into my heart after Caroline. But you've quietly changed that. Each day with you makes it harder to keep that promise. She took a trembling breath, feeling vulnerable yet exhilarated. Killian, are you sure you're ready for that? Your grief is still fresh, and I never want you to feel pressured. It's not pressure, he interrupted softly, sincerity clear in his eyes. It's honesty. When I'm near you, I feel hope. When I watch you with Madeline, I feel a peace that's been missing since Caroline died. I can't deny what my heart is telling me. Gently, he leaned toward her, his expression cautious yet hopeful. Elodie closed her eyes instinctively as their lips met softly, tenderly. The kiss was delicate yet profound, filled with the depth of emotions they'd carefully hidden until now. As they slowly pulled apart, both felt the undeniable connection that had formed between them deepen significantly. Yet as quickly as joy blossomed within her heart, uncertainty rose sharply, and Elodie suddenly pulled back, anxiety filling her eyes. Killian saw the sudden fear in her expression and quickly took her hand again, concern evident. What's wrong? He asked carefully, gently reassuring her with his touch. What if this isn't real, Killian? What if our feelings are just a product of grief and loneliness? I don't want either of us to mistake comfort for something deeper, she admitted hesitantly, her voice thick with emotion. Killian gently stroked her hand, understanding her fears completely. Elodie, I've thought of that too. But grief or not, our connection is real. I feel it deeply, genuinely. I won't rush you, and I promise we can move slowly. But please trust what's happening between us. She studied his face carefully, seeing genuine vulnerability in his eyes, a side he rarely revealed openly. Slowly, she nodded, allowing herself to believe in the possibility of happiness once more. I trust you, Killian. It's myself I'm afraid of. His expression softened tenderly as he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. Then let me show you that you don't have to fear your own heart. We'll face this together, one step at a time. Elodie leaned into his comforting embrace, letting herself relax fully against him. They sat quietly, wrapped in the warmth of newfound intimacy, aware they had crossed an important threshold, yet equally cautious of the emotional challenges that still lay ahead. Later, as they returned hand in hand to the mansion, the glow from the windows guiding their steps, neither noticed the shadowy figure hidden beyond the hedges, silently watching their closeness with cold, calculating eyes. Inside the mansion, oblivious to the hidden observer, Killian led Elodie toward Madeline's nursery. Standing together beside the crib, gazing tenderly at the sleeping child, both felt profound gratitude for the small miracle that had brought them together. Yet deep down, they sensed their journey was far from simple. Hidden dangers and unforeseen challenges awaited them, testing their fragile bond in ways neither could yet imagine. But tonight, standing together in quiet unity, their hearts cautiously intertwined, both chose to embrace the fragile hope blossoming between them, determined to face whatever lay ahead side by side. Over the following days, Killian and Elodie continued exploring their newfound closeness, carefully navigating the delicate balance between healing and vulnerability. Their relationship remained quiet and private, a gentle secret nurtured behind the closed doors of the Winslow mansion. Though both knew that their feelings were genuine, they still held lingering concerns about how others might interpret their bond, especially given the recent tragedies that had shaped their lives. Despite their caution, they couldn't hide the subtle yet undeniable shift in the atmosphere around them. Their conversations grew deeper, filled with laughter, sincerity, and occasional glimpses of playful teasing. Even Madeline seemed to sense the change, thriving beautifully under their shared attention and care. Her cheeks grew rosy, her eyes brighter with each passing day, as if mirroring the blossoming relationship between the two adults who cherished her deeply. One morning, as Elodie fed Madeline in the sunny breakfast room overlooking the garden, she noticed Killian absorbed in his phone, his expression darkening with each passing second. Concerned, she waited until he set the device aside with visible frustration. Is something wrong? she asked cautiously, sensing his tension immediately. Killian hesitated, his jaw tightening briefly before finally meeting her gaze directly. Caroline's younger sister, Juliet, is returning to Boston today. She wants to see Madeline and discuss something important. I have a feeling it won't be a pleasant conversation. Elodie felt her stomach twist anxiously. She had never met Juliet but was well aware of her reputation as a fiercely protective, occasionally difficult woman. Do you think she'll have an issue with me being here? Killian reached across the table, gently clasping her hand, reassuring her with warmth and sincerity. She might, but please know that you belong here, Elodie. I won't let anyone make you feel otherwise. His words brought comfort, but apprehension lingered within her. Hours later, that anxiety returned sharply when Juliet arrived at the mansion. Tall, elegant, and strikingly beautiful, Juliet possessed an air of authority that immediately filled the room. Her gaze swept coolly over Elodie before settling firmly on Killian, her expression unreadable. Killian, Juliet greeted him, her voice carefully controlled, I hope you're well. He nodded politely. As well as can be expected, Juliet. This is Elodie Harlow. She's been helping me care for Madeline. Juliet turned sharply toward Elodie, eyes narrowing slightly. Yes, I've heard about you. I appreciate your help, Miss Harlow, but I hope you understand how sensitive this situation is. My sister's death was recent, and seeing another woman in her home so soon feels somewhat inappropriate. Elodie felt heat rise to her cheeks, embarrassment mingling with hurt at the harshness of Juliet's words. Yet before she could respond, Killian stepped protectively in front of her, his voice calm but firm. Elodie's presence here has saved Madeline's life. Your niece wouldn't be healthy without her help. I understand your feelings, Juliet, but I ask you to respect what she's done for this family. Juliet hesitated, visibly surprised by Killian's defensive stance, clearly not accustomed to him challenging her openly. Composing herself, she took a steadying breath before speaking again. I didn't come here simply to criticize. There's something else important we need to discuss privately, Killian. It involves Caroline's will and guardianship of Madeline. Killian felt his pulse quicken, a sense of unease settling heavily over him. He glanced briefly at Elodie, offering a silent reassurance, before leading Juliet to his study. Once alone, Juliet faced him directly, her eyes intense and determined. Caroline had serious doubts about your ability to care for a child alone, Juliet began bluntly. Before her death, she expressed to me privately that should anything happen to her, she wanted me involved in raising Madeline. Killian stared at her in disbelief, shock rapidly turning to anger. Caroline never mentioned any such thing to me. We always agreed we'd raise Madeline together, no matter what. Juliet's expression softened slightly, a fleeting look of genuine sadness crossing her features. I loved Caroline deeply, Killian. I'm not trying to hurt you, but she feared your grief might consume you. She wanted a safety net for Madeline. I'm not here to take her away, but I do want to ensure she's properly cared for. Madeline is safe, loved, and thriving, Killian insisted passionately. Elodie and I are dedicated to giving her everything she needs. At the mention of Elodie's name, Juliet's expression hardened again, suspicion creeping back into her gaze. Be careful, Killian. You're vulnerable right now. Bringing a stranger into your home, becoming emotionally attached, it could cloud your judgment. I don't want Madeline's future compromised by impulsive choices. Killian stepped forward sharply, his voice low and tense. My judgment is perfectly clear. Elodie has proven herself trustworthy and compassionate. I won't tolerate you undermining her, Juliet. Juliet sighed, lifting her chin defiantly. Very well. But know this, I'll be watching closely. If I sense even the slightest issue, I won't hesitate to take legal action to protect Madeline. Caroline would expect nothing less. With that chilling warning lingering heavily between them, Juliet swiftly exited the mansion, leaving Killian shaken and deeply unsettled. When Elodie found him alone moments later, his expression was troubled, anxiety clearly etched into his features. "Killian, what happened?" she asked softly, moving quickly to his side. He exhaled heavily, wrapping his arms around her gently as if seeking comfort from her warmth. "Juliet thinks Caroline doubted my ability to raise Madeline alone. She threatened legal action if she senses something amiss, particularly regarding our relationship." Elodie felt fear spike sharply within her chest, the weight of Juliet's words settling painfully over her. "Maybe I should leave, Killian," she whispered reluctantly. "I never wanted to cause trouble." "No," Killian interrupted firmly, tightening his embrace protectively. "Juliet is grieving and angry, but she has no right to dictate how we live our lives. Madeline needs you, and so do I. Please stay, Elodie. We'll handle this together." Her resolve wavered momentarily, torn between desire and duty, yet ultimately, Elodie nodded slowly, trusting Killian's determination implicitly. They stood silently, holding one another, finding comfort in their closeness despite the uncertainty hanging ominously over them. Neither knew that at that very moment, Juliet sat alone in her car outside the mansion, her expression cold and calculating as she dialed a private investigator's number. She spoke curtly, determination clear in her tone. "I need information about a woman named Elodie Harlow. Find everything you can, no detail is too small." Ending the call abruptly, Juliet glanced back at the mansion, eyes narrowed with resolve. She would protect her sister's legacy at any cost, even if it meant tearing apart the fragile happiness Killian and Elodie had begun building together. The arrival of Juliet brought with it a persistent shadow, casting tension over the previously calm atmosphere of the Winslow home. Days passed quietly, yet Killian and Elodie remained acutely aware of the threat hanging above their heads. Despite their resolve to protect their fragile happiness, uncertainty crept into the corners of their minds, each fearing what Juliet's investigation might uncover, or worse, fabricate. Elodie, in particular, felt increasingly uneasy. Her past, though free from scandal, was complicated enough to be twisted into something damaging if Juliet chose to exploit it. She found herself awake late at night, anxiety gnawing at her, desperately wishing to shield Madeline and Killian from any harm her presence might inadvertently bring. One chilly afternoon, while Killian was away on business, Elodie received an unexpected visitor. Answering a knock at the door, her stomach twisted painfully when she saw Juliet standing confidently on the doorstep, a thick envelope gripped tightly in her hands. "Miss Harlow," Juliet greeted coolly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "We need to talk privately." Elodie reluctantly led her to the quiet living room, heart racing anxiously. Juliet settled gracefully into a chair opposite her, eyes cold and determined as she placed the envelope deliberately on the coffee table between them. "I hired someone to look into your past," Juliet began bluntly, watching Elodie carefully. "Imagine my surprise when he discovered you were abandoned by your child's father. Or that your parents disowned you entirely." Elodie felt her breath catch sharply, humiliation and pain washing over her. Yet she lifted her chin bravely, refusing to let Juliet see her crumble. "That's no secret. My past isn't perfect, but I've never hidden that." Juliet leaned forward slightly, her voice lowering dangerously. "Your presence here is complicating matters unnecessarily, Elodie. Killian may believe you have good intentions, but how can I trust someone who was rejected by everyone who should have loved her most?" Elodie's eyes flashed sharply with hurt and defiance. "What happened to me wasn't my fault, Juliet. You know nothing about the choices I had to make, or the pain I've endured. My past doesn't define me." Juliet raised an eyebrow skeptically, tapping her manicured nails gently against the envelope. "I'm not here to debate morality, Miss Harlow. I'm here to offer you a simple choice: leave this house voluntarily, end your relationship with Killian, or I'll use everything I've gathered to publicly humiliate you both. The press will tear you apart, and Killian will lose Madeline. Are you prepared for that?" The icy threat sent dread racing through Elodie's veins. Her mind filled instantly with visions of scandal, pain, and heartbreak, of losing Killian and Madeline forever. Yet beneath her fear, anger rose defiantly. "How can you justify hurting Madeline to punish me?" Elodie demanded, voice trembling with emotion. "She's innocent in all this." Juliet's gaze briefly softened, genuine sadness flickering through her eyes before hardening again. "Madeline deserves stability and security. Killian, blinded by grief and loneliness, can't see clearly. I'm protecting my niece from further heartbreak." "You're punishing us for something we haven't even done," Elodie exclaimed, rising sharply. "Killian's done nothing but love and care for Madeline. He's never allowed grief to interfere." Juliet stood slowly, her tone becoming dangerously soft. "You have 48 hours to leave. Spare everyone further pain. Killian's future, and Madeline's, is in your hands." With those chilling words, Juliet swept confidently from the room, leaving Elodie trembling, her thoughts in turmoil. When Killian returned home hours later, he found Elodie pale and withdrawn, clearly troubled. "Elodie, what happened?" he asked urgently, pulling her into his arms. She buried her face against his chest briefly, struggling to steady her breathing before finally speaking quietly. "Juliet was here. She dug up my past, threatened to expose everything publicly unless I leave you and Madeline." Killian's eyes darkened with fury, his grip tightening protectively. "She had no right to threaten you, Elodie. I'll handle this personally." Elodie pulled back slightly, tears shimmering in her eyes. "Killian, I'm terrified of losing Madeline, or causing you any more pain. Maybe leaving would be easier." "No," he insisted passionately, cupping her face tenderly. "Don't let Juliet manipulate us. Your past doesn't matter, only who you are now. You're Madeline's family, and you're mine. I refuse to lose you." She leaned into his touch, desperately seeking strength from his unwavering confidence. "But how do we fight her, Killian? She's determined to destroy our happiness." "Then we prove her wrong," Killian replied resolutely. "We'll confront this openly. Our love isn't shameful, and Madeline's welfare is paramount. I won't hide or run away, not from Juliet or anyone else." His determination filled her with cautious hope, a fragile belief that perhaps their bond could withstand the storm approaching. Together, they began preparing their defense, collecting letters from doctors praising Elodie's role in Madeline's recovery, gathering testimonials from friends who supported their relationship, and consulting trusted legal advisors about potential actions Juliet might take. As their preparations continued, Killian made an unexpected discovery that dramatically changed everything. Late one evening, while reviewing old security footage from the estate in search of anything Juliet might use against them, he uncovered a hidden video file dated the night before Caroline's tragic flight. Curious, he played the recording, shock gripping him immediately. On screen, Juliet could be seen arguing heatedly with Caroline. The footage revealed Juliet fiercely demanding Caroline reconsider her will, insisting she be given full guardianship of Madeline and significant control over Killian's fortune. Caroline's firm refusal led to Juliet uttering chilling, unmistakable threats moments before storming away angrily. Heart pounding, Killian quickly called Elodie to his side, sharing the shocking footage. Both stared in disbelief, realizing Juliet's obsession wasn't just about protecting Madeline, it was about gaining control over Killian's wealth and influence. The implications were staggering, suggesting Juliet's threats toward Elodie were part of a larger, darker scheme. "We have to expose this," Elodie said breathlessly. "Juliet's intentions were never honorable. She's dangerous, Killian." He nodded grimly, determination blazing fiercely in his eyes. "Tomorrow, we confront Juliet directly. She needs to understand clearly that her manipulation ends now." That night, sleep eluded them both, anxiety and anticipation twisting within their hearts. They clung tightly to each other, drawing strength from their love, knowing the following day would decide their future together. Unbeknownst to them, Juliet had already anticipated their discovery. Hidden in the shadows of her elegant townhouse, she quietly made preparations of her own. Refusing to relinquish her carefully laid plans, she dialed a number discreetly, her voice cold and composed. "It's time," Juliet ordered calmly. "Make sure neither of them discovers the full truth. Whatever it takes, I want them silenced." Ending the call, Juliet smiled coldly, confidence returning fully. She wouldn't surrender easily, not when victory seemed so close. Tomorrow, everything would change forever. Killian and Elodie awoke the following morning filled with apprehension yet unwavering determination. Their discovery of Juliet's dark intentions had altered everything, and they knew the confrontation ahead would test every ounce of their strength and resilience. Before dawn broke fully, Killian had already contacted his trusted attorney, Grant Aldrich, arranging an emergency meeting to discuss the security footage and Juliet's threats against them. Sitting anxiously beside Killian in the attorney's spacious downtown office, Elodie felt a sharp pang of fear mixed with cautious hope. Grant carefully reviewed the evidence, his expression shifting from concern to grim resolve as the full magnitude of Juliet's betrayal became evident. "This footage clearly demonstrates malicious intent," Grant explained firmly. "Juliet's threats against Caroline, combined with her behavior toward you both, suggest she was always planning to seize guardianship and control your assets, Killian. We must act quickly to protect Madeline, and yourselves." Killian nodded, his voice tense but clear. "What exactly should we do?" Grant leaned forward earnestly. "We file an immediate restraining order against Juliet, present this footage to authorities, and request an investigation into Caroline's death. It might have been an accident, but given Juliet's threats and behavior, there's enough suspicion to justify further inquiry." Elodie reached over, gripping Killian's hand tightly as dread twisted sharply within her chest. The possibility that Juliet could have orchestrated Caroline's death was horrifying, yet tragically believable. "Do you think Juliet could have done something that extreme?" Elodie asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. Killian's jaw tightened, pain evident in his eyes. "At this point, I don't know what she's capable of. But protecting Madeline is our priority. Juliet's shown clearly that she's willing to hurt anyone to get what she wants." Grant nodded solemnly. "Then we proceed immediately. Keep Madeline close, strengthen your security, and don't communicate with Juliet directly. Allow the legal system to handle this." They left the office with heavy hearts, fully aware of the difficult path ahead. Returning home, Killian immediately strengthened security measures around the mansion, doubling personnel and instructing staff to remain vigilant at all times. Hours later, as evening fell over Boston, Killian received an urgent call from a restricted number. Hesitantly answering, his blood turned cold at Juliet's calm, icy voice on the other end. "You think involving lawyers will stop me, Killian?" Juliet said quietly, venom dripping from each word. "You're only making this harder on yourself, and Elodie. Walk away now, or prepare to lose everything." Killian's voice remained steady, anger controlled but evident. "You underestimated us, Juliet. Your schemes end here. Leave us alone, permanently." She laughed bitterly, chillingly calm. "You have no idea what I'm capable of. Say goodbye to your precious happiness." The line went dead, leaving Killian deeply unsettled. He immediately sought Elodie, finding her quietly reading to Madeline in the nursery. Seeing Killian's troubled expression, she rose swiftly, setting the baby carefully in her crib. "What's wrong?" she asked softly, sensing danger immediately. Killian relayed Juliet's threatening call, anger and anxiety evident in his voice. "I underestimated her, Elodie. She's dangerous, capable of anything. We need to stay vigilant until authorities handle this." Elodie gently touched his face, offering quiet comfort. "We'll protect Madeline together, Killian. Juliet's manipulation won't destroy what we've built." Night fell uneasily over the mansion, both remaining awake, restless with worry. Just after midnight, a sudden noise shattered their uneasy peace. a faint creaking downstairs, followed by the muffled sound of breaking glass. Instantly alert, Killian grabbed his phone, urgently alerting security before cautiously approaching the stairs. Heart racing, Elodie followed closely, both moving silently through the shadowed corridors. As they reached the entry hall, they saw a figure emerging slowly from the darkness. Juliet stepped calmly forward, a sharp gleam in her eyes as moonlight illuminated her face. In her hand, she clutched a small handgun, pointed directly toward them. Her expression was cold, utterly devoid of remorse or hesitation. "You shouldn't have challenged me," Juliet spoke softly, voice frighteningly calm. "You forced my hand, Killian. Caroline would still be alive if she had listened. Now you've made the same mistake." Killian positioned himself protectively in front of Elodie, voice low yet firm. "Juliet, this madness stops here. Whatever you hope to gain isn't worth destroying lives." Juliet laughed bitterly, stepping closer. "It's about reclaiming what should have always been mine. Caroline inherited everything, our family fortune, our parents' affection, your love. I was always second best. Not anymore." Killian felt anger and sorrow mingling sharply within him. "You killed Caroline over jealousy? How could you betray your own sister like that?" Juliet's eyes flashed angrily, hand trembling slightly. "It wasn't supposed to go that far." But Caroline refused to listen, insisted on flying that night despite warnings. Her stubbornness cost her life, just as your stubbornness will cost you yours. Elodie, heart racing fiercely, saw security silently approaching from behind Juliet. Realizing they had only moments to distract her, Elodie stepped cautiously around Killian, drawing Juliet's gaze toward herself. "Juliet, please," Elodie pleaded softly, voice gentle yet urgent. "Think about Madeline. She's innocent. Don't take both her parents from her." Juliet hesitated briefly, doubt flickering in her eyes. But before she could respond, security swiftly moved in, disarming her decisively. Authorities arrived moments later, arresting Juliet as she furiously struggled against them, her chilling screams echoing into the night. In the aftermath, as silence settled heavily over the mansion, Killian pulled Elodie tightly into his embrace, trembling slightly with relief. Neither spoke, simply holding each other, deeply shaken yet profoundly grateful to be alive. The following morning, after giving statements to investigators, Killian and Elodie stood quietly together, gazing at Madeline sleeping peacefully. Despite Juliet's arrest, both understood clearly that scars from this trauma would linger indefinitely. "Elodie, I'm so sorry," Killian whispered gently, his voice thick with regret. "You never should have faced danger because of my family." She shook her head softly, leaning into his embrace. "We faced it together, Killian. Your family's pain isn't yours to bear alone. I'm here willingly, no matter what comes." His grip tightened, love and gratitude filling his heart. "I couldn't have survived this without you. You've shown strength and bravery beyond measure." Elodie lifted her eyes, sincerity shining brightly within her gaze. "Our love gives me strength. As long as we have each other, we'll overcome anything." Their lips met softly, a tender reaffirmation of their bond, one now forged through trials, pain, and resilience. Both knew clearly that challenges still lay ahead, yet their unity felt stronger than ever, tempered by shared adversity. Unbeknownst to them, however, Juliet had left one final, devastating secret behind. Deep within police custody, she spoke quietly to a trusted lawyer, revealing a shocking truth intended to shatter Killian's world entirely. "Tell Killian to search deeper. Elodie's daughter didn't die, she was stolen, hidden away. Tell him that Elodie's lost child is closer than either of them can possibly imagine." With that chilling revelation still unknown to Killian and Elodie, their fragile peace remained precarious, poised unknowingly on the edge of yet another unimaginable twist. In the aftermath of Juliet's arrest, Killian and Elodie cautiously began rebuilding the fragments of their disrupted lives. Juliet's betrayal had deeply wounded Killian, forcing him to face painful truths about his family, while Elodie struggled with lingering anxiety, haunted by the threat Juliet had posed. However, as days turned into weeks, their bond grew stronger, built upon the foundation of trust and mutual support that had seen them through the darkest moments. Yet peace proved elusive. One morning, just as they were settling into a tentative new normal, Killian received a phone call from Grant Aldrich. His lawyer's voice was uncharacteristically strained, indicating an urgency that instantly filled Killian with dread. "Killian, we need to talk immediately, privately," Grant instructed firmly, his tone brooking no argument. "Something's come up. It involves Elodie." Heart sinking sharply, Killian glanced toward Elodie, who was feeding Madeline nearby, oblivious to the ominous conversation unfolding mere feet away. He stepped quietly into his private study, closing the door firmly behind him. "What is it, Grant?" Killian asked, dread gnawing sharply at his chest. Grant hesitated briefly, clearly gathering strength to deliver troubling news. Juliet revealed something deeply disturbing to her lawyer. She claimed that Elodie's daughter, the one she believed died shortly after birth, is actually alive. Killian felt his pulse quicken painfully, disbelief clashing violently with hope and confusion. "How is that possible?" Grant sighed heavily, clearly disturbed by what he was revealing. "Juliet insists that the child was deliberately taken from the hospital under false pretenses. Apparently, Juliet orchestrated everything. She paid off hospital staff to stage the infant's death, then secretly placed her into another family's care, intending never to reveal the truth. It was part of her twisted scheme to isolate and control everyone involved, including Elodie." Killian's mind reeled violently, overwhelmed by the horrifying implications. The cruelty required to engineer such deception left him nauseous and deeply shaken. His voice shook slightly as he responded. "Grant, if this is true, we must confirm it immediately. Elodie deserves to know if her child is alive." "Agreed," Grant replied gravely. "I've already begun an investigation, contacting authorities discreetly to verify Juliet's claim. But we must tread carefully, false hope could devastate Elodie." Ending the call, Killian stood frozen momentarily, struggling to regain composure. Carefully hiding his emotions, he returned slowly to Elodie's side, silently watching her soothe Madeline tenderly. He debated whether to share the revelation immediately but decided to wait until there was absolute certainty. Until then, he vowed silently to shield Elodie from further pain. Days passed in agonizing uncertainty. Killian spent hours secretly coordinating with Grant and investigators, carefully piecing together evidence from hospital records, surveillance footage, and financial transactions. Each discovery confirmed Juliet's shocking claim. The evidence irrefutably showed that Elodie's daughter had survived, secretly transferred under Juliet's direction to an anonymous family living miles away. Finally, with incontrovertible proof in hand, Killian knew the moment had come to reveal the truth to Elodie. Late one afternoon, as they stood quietly on the veranda, sunlight painting golden hues across the garden, Killian took Elodie's hands gently into his own, voice soft yet filled with urgency. "Elodie, there's something incredibly important we need to discuss," he began cautiously, heart aching at the confusion and fear filling her eyes instantly. "It's about your daughter." Elodie's face paled immediately, her voice trembling slightly. "My daughter?" "Killian, what's happened?" Taking a deep breath, Killian gently shared everything: Juliet's revelation, Grant's investigation, the undeniable evidence proving her child still lived. Elodie listened silently, emotions shifting rapidly from disbelief to shock, then finally to cautious hope. "Are you sure?" she whispered tearfully, hardly daring to believe. "Could my baby really be alive?" Killian tenderly brushed away her tears, his own eyes glistening. "Yes, Elodie. It's true. Juliet took everything from you, but she didn't take this permanently. Your daughter is alive. And we'll find her together." Overwhelmed, Elodie broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably in his embrace. Killian held her protectively, allowing her to release years of pent-up grief and suppressed hope. As tears finally subsided, resolve hardened firmly within her gaze. "We have to find her, Killian," she insisted passionately, determination blazing fiercely within her eyes. "Whatever it takes, I must see my daughter again." Together, they worked tirelessly over the following weeks, driven by renewed purpose and fierce determination. Using every resource at their disposal, they finally traced Elodie's daughter to a small coastal town in Maine, where she'd been raised quietly and lovingly by an unaware couple who believed they had legally adopted the infant. With authorities closely involved, the delicate reunion was carefully arranged. Killian and Elodie traveled anxiously to Maine, hearts heavy with anticipation. Standing outside the modest, welcoming home, Elodie grasped Killian's hand tightly, trembling slightly as she prepared herself emotionally. The front door opened gently, revealing a warm, kind-faced woman named Sarah Mitchell, who'd raised Elodie's daughter as her own. Beside her stood a little girl, around 2 years old, with soft, curly auburn hair and expressive hazel eyes identical to Elodie's. The sight instantly stole Elodie's breath, recognition and powerful maternal love flooding her heart entirely. Sarah spoke softly, voice gentle yet tinged with sadness. "We had no idea. I'm so terribly sorry. She's been our whole world, but she deserves to know her real mother." Overcome completely, Elodie knelt slowly, tears streaming freely as she gently extended her arms toward her daughter. "Her name?" Elodie asked softly, voice thick with emotion. Sarah smiled sadly. "We called her Amelia." "Amelia," Elodie whispered tenderly, heart swelling warmly as the child hesitantly stepped closer, curious yet unafraid. Their eyes met, a powerful, silent connection forming instantly, one born from an unbreakable bond neither tragedy nor betrayal could sever. The reunion filled everyone with joy and sorrow intertwined. The Mitchells' pain of letting go was softened slightly by Killian and Elodie's heartfelt gratitude and assurances of ongoing involvement. Together, both families vowed cooperation, determined to ensure Amelia's happiness remained paramount. Returning home, Elodie held Amelia tightly, deeply grateful yet profoundly aware of the complex path ahead. The mansion, once shadowed by grief and betrayal, now filled with cautious laughter, hope, and renewal as Madeline and Amelia instantly bonded, becoming inseparable companions. Yet as happiness gradually blossomed around them, Killian couldn't shake persistent unease lingering deep within him. Juliet remained incarcerated, yet the depths of her cruelty haunted him still, reminding him painfully of the damage jealousy and greed had inflicted upon those he loved most. Late one evening, after putting both girls to sleep, Killian quietly confessed lingering fears to Elodie. "How can we ever fully trust happiness again, knowing how quickly it can be ripped away?" Elodie took his hands gently, sincerity shining brightly within her gaze. "We trust because we've already endured the worst. Juliet's betrayal could have destroyed us, but it didn't. Together, we found strength, hope, resilience. Our love survived darkness. Now we owe it to ourselves, and our children, to embrace happiness openly." Her words filled Killian with renewed courage, gently erasing remaining doubts. Silently, beneath softly glowing moonlight, they vowed never again to let fear dictate their future. Yet neither could foresee that Juliet, even behind bars, had arranged one final, hidden deception, something darker still, carefully concealed, ready to emerge unexpectedly, threatening once more to shatter their fragile peace forever. Life gradually settled into a gentle, comforting rhythm within the Winslow mansion, as Killian, Elodie, Madeline, and Amelia slowly learned to embrace happiness after the chaos they had endured. Amelia adjusted beautifully to her new surroundings, forming an inseparable bond with Madeline, while Elodie savored every moment spent with the daughter she believed lost forever. Killian watched them lovingly, grateful for the unexpected family they had created, a family born not just from tragedy but from resilience, compassion, and unwavering love. Yet, even amidst newfound happiness, lingering shadows occasionally reminded them of Juliet's chilling legacy. Although Juliet remained imprisoned, her presence still haunted Killian's thoughts, filling him with caution whenever happiness felt too complete. He knew better than anyone how swiftly joy could dissolve into sorrow. Months passed quietly, and it seemed the past had finally loosened its grip. However, on a tranquil morning, as the sun painted Boston in gentle hues of gold, Killian received an unexpected call from Grant Aldrich. His attorney's urgent tone immediately reignited Killian's anxieties. "Killian, I'm sorry, but Juliet's lawyer contacted me," Grant began gravely. "Juliet wants to speak with you privately. She insists it's important and involves your daughters." Killian's jaw tightened sharply. What could she possibly want now? "Honestly, I don't know. But she implied it involves Amelia's adoption and some hidden aspect we overlooked. Killian, I hate to say this, but you should consider hearing her out." Reluctantly, Killian agreed, dread twisting sharply within him. Later that afternoon, escorted by prison guards, he entered the sterile, oppressive visitation room where Juliet waited patiently behind protective glass. Her eyes were cold, yet oddly calm, suggesting she held one final card, one she was certain would devastate him. "What do you want, Juliet?" Killian demanded coldly, masking fear beneath anger. Juliet smiled bitterly. "You think you've won, don't you? That I'm powerless here?" "You're locked away," Killian retorted sharply. "You'll never harm my family again." She leaned closer to the glass, voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "But what if Amelia was never really Elodie's daughter? What if everything you believe is built on yet another lie?" Killian's blood froze instantly, heart racing with dread. "What are you talking about?" Juliet's smile grew darker. "The baby Elodie gave birth to truly did die. Amelia's real mother was Caroline." Killian recoiled, shock and disbelief clashing violently within him. "That's impossible. Caroline never had another child. Madeline was our only baby." Juliet shook her head slowly, satisfaction clear in her eyes. "You never knew Caroline had a secret pregnancy before Madeline. She kept it hidden from everyone, even you. After the child's birth, she asked me to arrange an adoption. She feared your reaction to another child so early in your marriage. Amelia is Caroline's firstborn. Elodie's real daughter never survived." Killian stood frozen, struggling to breathe as Juliet's words shattered everything he'd believed. Anguish tore through him, the implications overwhelming. Juliet's eyes gleamed triumphantly, enjoying the pain she'd inflicted one last time. "Why tell me now?" Killian demanded hoarsely, voice shaking. "What satisfaction can this bring you?" Juliet's expression hardened bitterly. "Because you took everything from me. Now live with the knowledge that your happiness, your family, is still built on lies. Elodie will never forgive this deception." Killian left the prison numbly, mind racing desperately to verify Juliet's horrifying claim. Frantic, he immediately contacted Grant, ordering a thorough investigation into Amelia's true origins. Days of painstaking research confirmed the unbearable truth: Juliet's revelation was correct. Amelia was Caroline's daughter, born secretly 2 years before Madeline and placed into an adoption arranged discreetly by Juliet herself. Devastated, Killian wrestled intensely with the impossible choice before him. Telling Elodie would destroy the family they'd carefully rebuilt, yet keeping silent was a betrayal he couldn't bear. Ultimately, he knew honesty was essential to protect their future together. Late one evening, beneath the moonlit glow illuminating the garden, Killian revealed everything gently to Elodie, heartbreaking with every painful word. Tears filled Elodie's eyes, confusion and shock swiftly giving way to heartbreak. She trembled, pulling away instinctively. "Killian, how could this happen?" she whispered brokenly. "I believed Amelia was mine. I built my happiness around her." He reached toward her pleadingly, voice thick with desperation. "Elodie, please understand, I didn't know. Juliet manipulated everything. Amelia needs us both, no matter whose daughter she is." Elodie shook her head tearfully, overwhelmed. How can I stay, knowing the child I love so deeply belongs to the woman you once loved more than anything? Killian's heart shattered visibly, anguish filling his voice. Elodie, you are my everything now, my heart, my future. Caroline is my past, a past I can never erase. But you are the woman I love now, the one who healed me, who taught me to hope again. Please don't let Juliet's cruelty break us apart. Yet Elodie, overwhelmed by betrayal and confusion, pulled away further, retreating alone into the mansion. Days passed in painful silence, each trapped within private grief and fear of losing everything again. Finally, one quiet evening, as twilight gently enveloped the city, Elodie found Killian seated alone beside Madeline and Amelia, both girls sleeping peacefully. Her heart twisted sharply with love and sorrow intertwined. Slowly, she approached, voice trembling softly. Killian, I've spent days thinking about everything, she began cautiously. This revelation has wounded me deeply. But no matter her parentage, Amelia is my daughter. Juliet's cruelty aimed to destroy us, but only we can choose whether it succeeds. Killian gazed at her, hope cautiously returning within his eyes. Elodie, please forgive me. I never meant. I know, she interrupted gently, stepping closer. Our love isn't built on deception. It's built on trust, resilience, compassion. Amelia and Madeline deserve a family free from Juliet's hatred. I want that family, with you. Overwhelmed with relief and gratitude, Killian embraced Elodie fiercely, silently vowing never again to allow deception or fear to threaten their happiness. Slowly, joy cautiously returned, strengthened further by confronting truth openly, bravely, together. Months later, as autumn transformed Boston beautifully, Killian and Elodie married privately within their garden, vows spoken sincerely beneath gently falling leaves. Both girls stood happily beside them, their laughter symbolizing renewal, hope, and healing. Yet even as happiness blossomed fully around them, Killian remained acutely aware of the scars Juliet's betrayal had left behind. Their family, born from profound tragedy and pain, now stood as testament to strength found in honesty, forgiveness, and enduring love. Years afterward, late one peaceful evening, Killian watched Elodie gently reading bedtime stories to Amelia and Madeline. Warmth filled him deeply, yet a quiet sadness lingered softly, a gentle ache acknowledging everything endured to reach this precious moment. Elodie sensed his gaze, smiling tenderly. Are you all right, Killian? He smiled softly, taking her hand gently. I'm grateful, Elodie, grateful for you, for our daughters, for second chances. She squeezed his hand lovingly. We found happiness despite everything, Killian. Juliet's darkness couldn't destroy what we built. Their eyes met warmly, profound understanding passing silently between them. Both knew clearly the depth of challenges overcome, yet both understood something even more important: their love, tested fiercely through betrayal and tragedy, now shone brighter precisely because it had endured darkness, emerging unbroken, stronger than ever, ready to face whatever future awaited together.